Greetings, viewers. This is King Acho from Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia. Welcome to my platform. This is a Pan African platform. Please like, share, and subscribe. The discussion of today has to do with France and Mali, or you could say France and Africa. If you don't know, now you probably know, but I'm quite sure you are aware already. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, has threatened to withdraw French troops from Mali. But this is my response to that his threat. Mr. Emmanuel Macron of France, whose role model is Napoleon Bonaparte, who has the vision, the dream to be and to continuously to be the leader of French Africa, and in process trying to be the leader of Africa. Mr. Macron, I say this, I'm pleading, I'm begging, I'm asking, I'm demanding, and I'm hoping that you take out your military, your French military out of Mali, and not just only Mali, out of entire Africa. We don't want your military in Africa. As a matter of fact, African military is not in France. African military is not in Europe. African military is not in any Western country beside the continent of Africa. So I don't see your reason, your point in having your military in Africa. It's not because you are scared that Islamist radicalization could, flow into Europe because it's already there. Trying to contain the rise of Islamist radicalization in Africa by putting your military in Africa hasn't really done much. As a matter of fact, it's proven that you cannot defeat the Islamist radicalization in Africa. That is what is proven. That you're incapable, your military, your French military is incapable of handling this job. So please take out your military. But we know that the military of France in Mali and in the Sahel region is there for other interests other than what it says it should be for. You might say a continuous political instability could lead to greater Islamist radicalization, but Africa will have to contain that. African countries have been depending continuously on France and the military, but it's high time for Africa to take the responsibility to handle the issues in Africa, because the more they continue to depend on countries like France, on countries like the United Kingdom, and other European colonies country, Africa will not have the opportunity it needs to grow and make the reforms and changes it needs to make it better. So I say this to the president of France, please take your military out of Africa. We don't need them. They are incapable of defeating the Islamist radicalization. You think a second coup within 9 months in West Africa, or in a West African nation known as Mali? As a matter of fact, I will say this. Africa needs more coups, especially in countries where you have leaders who have been in power for so long and who are not really doing much to change the atmosphere of the countries in Africa. Then the military has to embark on more coups, because allowing certain political leaders to stay in power without doing anything to reform the country or to make the country better is useless. So I encourage more coups. That way, France will not be able to control the political atmosphere in Africa. So Mr. Macron has won the rest of Mali moving towards greater Islamic influence. You know, as you know, France has 5,100 troops in the Sahara region. Those 5,100 troops need to leave the Sahara region. It's time for the Sahara nations to take responsibility, full responsibility of their own survival, and they must take control of their military so as to control that region. Depending heavily on France shows lack of growth, not just in the Sahara region, but in Africa in general. Because Africa, since colonization, has depended, if not completely, but partly, from their colonial masters. And when you have your colonial masters tweaking and changing things, they're not going to do that for the interests of the countries in Africa, but they will do that for the interests of their own. They will do that for their own interests and not for the interests of Africa. And if African leaders haven't realized that, haven't seen that, haven't come to the conclusion that countries like France, United Kingdom, or even Italy, Portugal, who colonize African countries, have no interest in making Africa powerful, but to make Africa weak so that they can control Africa and stay in power. And which is what France in general has been doing since they colonized the French African countries. As a matter of fact, the French troops have been in the Sahel region, supporting countries in Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad since 2013. And what has happened? Instead, we've had more Islamist radicalization in the Sahel region. So, in other words, the job that France went to do, France cannot do it. That's the conclusion. So France is useless. French military is useless in the Sahara region. But why are they there? They're not only there because they want to make sure that they could weaken or destroy the growth of Islamist radicalization. They're there to enrich themselves, to enrich the country known as France. That's their interest. And if the African leaders haven't seen that, then the African leaders themselves are lost. Because they've been there since 2013 to curb and destroy the growth of Islamic radicalization, and they are not successful. But they're still making money. So what's the point of allowing them to stay in France? French military needs to get out of Africa. United Kingdom's military, which is also in Africa, needs to get out. Because African military is not in Europe. So why should they stick in Africa? It's like Africa cannot grow without the support of the European nations, without the support of the colonial masters. The colonial master must dare to spoon feed us in order for us to grow. But as an African, that's bullshit. I see that as bullshit. We have to have the right to make mistakes like any other countries in the world and grow from our mistakes without the European masters being there instructing as if they are gods in Africa. As if Africans should see them as gods. This is the mistake that we didn't learn from since regaining our so-called independence, which to me we really didn't succeed in gaining our independence from the colonial masters, since we still have them there, being involved in our political issues, being involved in our military issues, being involved in the government issues. It's still there. How can you grow if your teacher is always there teaching you, teaching you, teaching you? Then it's like, wait a minute, am I supposed to learn this shit on myself, or am I supposed to just keep asking my teacher to give me the answers? Come on. African leaders and African youths need to wake up and see that we do not need the colonial masters. We must learn to do this shit on ourselves. The Sahel nations must make sure that they can demolish and destroy the Islamist radicalization in the Sahara region. And if they don't, then they will be consumed by it. But they must do that by themselves. And so long as you have 5,100 troops in the Sahara regions, 5,100 French troops in the Sahara regions, then it's like they have to do this stuff. Everything that we want to do, we have to go to seek their guidance, their support, seek what reason, logic, what should we do? How can you grow by doing that? So, Mr. Macron, I say, take out your military out of the Sahara region. Take your military out of Africa. And let them be in France or other areas that you want them to be, but not in Africa. I mean, for how long? Mr. Macron told regional leaders that France would not support countries where there was no democratic legitimacy or transition. Regional bloc. So France has the power to tell the regional blocs what the regional blocs need to do. Not only that, France has the power to also tell the African Union what to do. So I say this to all the military men and women in Africa who fight and die for the continent of Africa. If you have the ability to take power in the government, being through coup d'etat or any method, do it. Especially in countries where the political leaders are not doing much to change the outcome. They're just there making money at the expense of the soldiers who are dying. Look at how much some of these political leaders in Africa earn. The amount of money that they earn, they don't deserve it. And they want to stay in power continuously. Meanwhile, the soldiers are doing the work, dying, fighting. And they want to tell you, oh, you don't have the right to take power. If you can take power in Africa and you're military, take it. Because that is simple. People are there in government institutions in Africa and political position in Africa, there for themselves and not for the countries. They're making money for themselves and not for the countries. And then the soldiers are dying in Africa. And when some are bold enough to take action and take government, you say, oh, we're going to sanction you. A country like France will tell ECOWAS and tell the African Union to sanction you. And they do it. Does that make any sense? If you are going to sanction them, if ECOWAS and African Union is going to sanction them, they should do it based on their own logical reasoning, not based on what France tells them to do. It simply says, oh, France is in control of the African Union. France is in control of ECOWAS. ECOWAS tried to create an eco currency. France intervened to make sure that it didn't happen. Because if it didn't happen according to how they wanted it, then it wouldn't happen. So France is the power behind ECOWAS, and France is the power behind the African Union, meaning that many of the African people are dying for the interest of France or for the interest of European power or for the interest of other powers besides Africa. You see, ever since the European divided Africa through the Berlin Conference of 1884, they have regulated, you know, European colonization and trade in Africa for their own benefit, and it still benefit them till today, which is why they see fit to tell the African Union to sanction Mali, to sanction any other nation in Africa decided to take power through the coup. This is what Africa now needs to do. All African nations, if you see problems happening in your country and you're in the military and you see that the politicians are not doing anything to change the outcome, take power by force if you have to. Because the whole African Union, the whole regional powers is being controlled, not by Africans, but by France, United Kingdom, and Western powers. As a matter of fact, China decided to embargo or decided to journey into Africa because they saw the opportunity to take advantage over Africa. Like Europe has been taking advantage over Africa. We don't control our continent. We do not control our countries. Other nations do. Africa is a lapdog to the entire world. So if the soldiers who have been fighting the wars in Africa decide to take power, so be it. And if the African Union can't control it, so what? We cannot continue to be a continent where other nations think they can make money out of African and they make money out of the people of Africa. And like we are just puppets, they are the masters. For what? So France, Emmanuel Macron is threatening that he'll take his military out of it. Take it. Africa will suffer with the Islamist radicalization, but eventually they will find their way out of it. It's not you that's gonna save the Sahara regions. It's the people in the Sahara regions. They will find a means, they'll find a way to solve their problems. You've been meddling too much in ECOWAS, too much in African countries, and you still feel the need to dive more into other African countries that you don't have control in, so as to continue what your so-called role model it did in the past. You're trying to do it now, which is why you feel the need to lecture African leaders and Africans. Emmanuel Macron feels he has the right to lecture because they don't see our humanity. They don't see Africans as humans. They still see us as slaves, as something that they can control. And if they cannot control, they'll find other ways. It's when a great leader like Dr. Omar Johnson talk about the 3 laws of white supremacy. And these 3 laws are this. all white people are racist. Why are they racist? Even those you consider your best friend are racist. Why? Because they benefit from the privilege of racism. They might not be racist to you. They might be friends, cool with you and best friends, but they still benefit from white supremacy because it's a structural system that's been put in place to benefit them, which is why Franks look down on Africa. It doesn't matter if you know, you're a member of the Islam faith or Christian faith. As long as you're an African, they look down on you. And guess what? Both religions are not even African religions in the first place. Those are religions that were used to colonize African people. And then some African people are using it to kill each other in the name of religion that is not theirs. Second law of the three laws of white supremacy. White people do not share power. Why is Macron talking down on African leaders? Why is Macron talking down on ECOWAS? Why is Macron talking down on the African Union? Because they don't share power. They don't share power. African leaders need to learn how to share power. But Europeans, whites, do not share power. And they will do everything possible to make sure they're in power. Third law of the three laws of white supremacy. White folks would do everything to achieve their goals. What is Macron trying to do when it comes to ECOWAS and African Union and Africa in general? He's doing everything possible to achieve the goals that he has for France in Africa. But we are there. What are we? Still functioning like slaves. We still functioning like slaves to the slave master, France, to the slave master, United Kingdom, to slave master, Western countries, to slave masters, supposed slave master, China, which they're not actually slave master, but they're also acting like the slave master because they learned from the slave masters and they look down on Africans. But Africans don't seem to understand that in order for us to grow, we also need to create what we know as Black power, where Black people will have to be respected, regardless of what position you are in the world. And we are not. Globally, Black people, it doesn't matter if you're the president of any country, they still don't fucking respect African people. And they will not, so long as they will do whatever they have to stay in power, control shit. And we talk about Africans, even in the Pan-African Parliament, they're talking about how France is doing everything to control Africa. It's not only France. You have France, you have United Kingdom, you have other Western powers making sure that they benefit from Africa while diminishing the humanity of African people, of Black people. They don't see us as humans. But the regional structure as well as the African Union is weak and will be the yes sir to France and non-Africans. But they will be the first one. African leaders will be the first one to shoot and kill their own brothers to make a point. but will be the yes sir to non-Africans, to whites. We may think we have freedom. We do not have freedom. What we have is an illusion of freedom, because the humanity of black people globally is not respected and can never be respected so long as Africa doesn't create the power base that they need to establish the respect of African humanity in the world. We cannot keep begging to the colonial masters that divided Africa for their own interests. They control our politics, they control our economy. In order for Africa to grow, Africa has to go to World Bank or IMF and beg. Things that ain't gonna change. So I say this to the French president: take your damn military out of Africa. African military is not in France, it's not in Europe, it's only in Africa. You are scared that, oh, the rise of Islamist radicalization in Africa will spill in Europe. As a matter of fact, it's already there. And it's not even Africans who are bringing it. It's Arabs. So that's just a tool you're using to try to suppress Africa as you try to control and gain the resources out of Africa to enrich France. So take your military out of Africa. We don't need it. And if the new leader of Mali is a country that is bigger than France, Mali shouldn't be begging and asking from France. If Mali create a structure of system that will work for the benefit of the people of Mali, Mali can regain the power it needs to build not just only Mali, but push it across Africa as well. But if they continue to seek and fight against each other in the name of a religion that was never theirs in the first place, like any other African countries that is Muslim or has Islamic religion, nothing will change. Power doesn't come from God. Power is structured and is determined by men. And when African people can understand that, then they can realize their potential. But so long as they keep thinking Allah, God, Jesus will come and save Africa, you're fooling your brains, like it or not. Structural power is created by man. And Africa needs to create their own structural power if it needs to guide the agenda of Africa, without which all this shit is going to be happening, and France is still going to be interfering. ECOWAS, that was crying for so long that, oh, France is interfering in our eco currency, are the very first one to suspend Mali. And the African Union also suspend Mali because France intervened. But this is the world we live in. This is the world we live in. The agenda is not set by us, it's set by non-Africans. Africa needs to set their own agenda and nourish their own agenda. We need to create a strong structure of power in Africa. And I don't think the African Union can do that. I don't even think PAP can do that, Pan-African Parliament, because they're fighting among themselves. But there are ways around it if we have good leaders. This is King H. Share your comments, like, subscribe. Till next time.